កម្មវិធីកិច្ចសន្ទនាកម្ពុជានិងពិភពលោក
Good evening, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to Cambodia Global Dialogue of Southeast Asia TV. Tonight I have a pleasure to have a long-time friend coming from Geneva, attending the World Economic Forum. And I thought that it'd be nice if I can invite her, and she accepted to come to the show. And we're going to talk a bit about trade, about Cambodia, about the WTO. More like reminiscing my old days when I was there. But it's something that I am very happy to have this conversation, and hopefully you can get yourself update a bit what's happening with the trade round, what's happening with Cambodia trade, what's happening in the World Economic Forum. So my good friend Chas, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. But before we start, why don't I give you a few minutes? You introduce yourself a bit to the audience. Yes.
So my name is Arantxa González. I'm Spanish by nationality because I was born in Spain in a little village in the mountains. So I know a lot about rural areas and agriculture, and I'm very passionate about agriculture because of that. I studied in Spain and then got my first job in Brussels. I was a lawyer in private practice. From there, went on to work in the European Commission. I very much believe in regional economic integration. Small, weak, bigger, stronger. And this is the story of the European regional integration, and this is the story of the ASEAN regional integration. From there, I started an adventure with my former boss, Pascal Lamy, the Director General of the World Trade Organization. I served with him for 8 years, and now I head a small agency that is a mix of United Nations and the World Trade Organization. It's an agency that Siphana knows very well because he worked there. It's called the International Trade Center, and it's a very important agency, in particular for countries that want to participate in international trade.
Well, Arantxa, you have a very good expose in a very short time, a bit about already ITC. But I want to say that when did you come to Cambodia?
Wow, 20 years ago was my first trip as a backpacker with a group of friends.
20 years ago, wow, okay. It's quite a while.
Quite a big, long while.
Yes.
And I can tell you, I could not recognize the country when I landed at the airport this morning.
Yes.
The country has changed enormously, for the good.
Yes.
For the good.
And I would say that trade matter in the Cambodia economic development. The day when we negotiated the WTO, when you came to Cambodia, was the pre-WTO days.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And then the WTO came. I would say, we joined WTO 2004, now 16 years. What you see in Phnom Penh now is directly the effect of the WTO accession.
That's what I tell some of my friends back in Europe and some of my friends back in America who are questioning the value of international trade, who are saying trade is not good. Trade is driving standards down. Trade is making people poorer. I said, wait. There are parts of this world that are growing, that are prospering. People are finding new opportunities they didn't have before, also through trade.
Yes.
But the most important thing in my view, and this is the lesson that Cambodia offers to the rest of the world, is that the WTO accession was a means to an end.
Yes.
It wasn't the end.
Yes.
Trade is not the end.
Yes.
Trade is a means to create growth. Trade is a means to foster productivity. When companies participate in trade, they become stronger because competition is tougher.
Yes.
When you have to compete with countries all around the world, you've got to be stronger. So you've got to up your game. But this is what makes for more competitive companies. And more competitive companies pay better wages.
Yes.
And they employ more people.
Yes.
And they contribute more to the domestic growth. And this is the story of Cambodia.
Yeah.
Now, trade is a means. But then you need many other things in the country to work for this trade to work.
Yes. Well, I would say that Cambodia is a clear beneficiary of this trade, opening. Mm-hmm. But like, for example, today we are hosting the World Economic Forum. Mm-hmm. It's a moment where the world is a bit, going backward a bit. I mean, that's a worry. And you can hear clearly that the leadership would want to highlight the importance of trade. The region, ASEAN, is a big trading bloc, but we would need partner that still believe in trade. And I think the role of ITC to play this actor to let people know that trade matter is important. It's important. What is ITC doing nowadays in terms of global coverage? You're pretty much everywhere, no? Around the world.
The ITC, it's very interesting what you say. The ITC was invented 60 years ago when countries realized that the WTO makes trade possible.
Yes.
It makes it possible.
Yeah.
But you still need somebody to help you make it happen.
Okay.
Making it possible is fine, but it's only 50% of the road.
Yes.
You still need to make it happen. You need to strengthen the competitiveness of your small businesses. You need to have institutions for trade and investment that are solid, that can help the SMEs go international. You need to have policies around trade and skills. In healthcare, in infrastructure, in education, that are going to be supported.
The whole ecosystem.
It's the ecosystem.
Yeah.
So what the ITC does is work on these three things: the ecosystem, the institutions, and the companies. We have a commitment, which is at least 70% of what we do has to be in our priority countries.
Okay.
Who are our priority countries? Landlocked.
Yes.
Least developed countries. Post-conflict.
Yes.
Fragile, small islands.
Okay.
Those that are a bit more distant from the market.
Yes.
Not that they don't have things to offer to the market.
Yes.
But they are a bit more distant either by their level of competitiveness or even by their physical distance. You see?
Yes.
So a commitment, 70% priority countries. We do more than that. We do almost 80% in these priority countries. And it's basically, to a large extent, Sub-Saharan Africa, small islands in the Pacific and the Caribbean, and then obviously a big chunk here around Southeast Asia, in Cambodia, in Laos, in Myanmar, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh.
Yes.
But also, while you work in this, you also see the need to work with the others around them.
Yes.
Inevitably.
For me, ITC has if I can put it in a very simple way, right? Trade, sometimes you tend to get lost in all this macroeconomic analysis, okay? Greek symbol, all this, only economists can read this symbol, okay? Normal people cannot. But the thing in my years in before joining ITC, during my year in ITC, during my year post ITC, I find it's the simplicity of ITC tool. It's how do you, well, let's face it, not everybody, have PhD, but they still want to do business, but sometimes they don't understand the trade rule, and they say, oh, look, I heard that this market is opening up, but about this trade barrier, many times it's small thing, but these are the things that prevent trade from happening. And ITC, I like because I still keep all this manual at home because it's very simplified, it's very simple, user-friendly, and if you can apply it, you find the benefit. The example in Cambodia is our own rice trade policy.
Yeah, that's right.
It all starts with ITC supply chain tool.
That's right.
2011, we barely export 15,000 metric ton. With the supply chain analysis, we turn into a clear rice export policy, and now we export 500,000 tons.
Yeah, which shows that you don't need PhD to export rice. What you need is a good plan.
good plan.
You need a good plan,
good
target
tool.
the right market.
Yes.
And then help the producers up their game.
Yes.
They need to do good quality, good
Yes.
packaging,
Yes.
necessary to meet the standards.
Yes.
You know, if you produce food, which is a lot of where there is a big potential here
Yes.
in this country, is in
Yes.
food, in high quality food, because you have a special varieties.
Yes.
Rice is
Yes.
a good example.
Yes.
Very appreciated in international markets. But you need to certify this
Exactly.
as being good for human
Yeah.
consumption. You need to put a fancy package. You need to label it. Put a
Yes.
good brand.
Yeah.
Advertise, market your brand. You don't need PhD.
Yeah.
What you need is a very conscientious effort
Yes.
at developing a value chain
Yes.
in which more of the value remains in Cambodia.
Yeah, you know, I think we're doing well in trade, in agriculture, in rice, but I think, you know, the thing that we follow quite closely is the WTO, right? The famous trade facilitation agreement.
That's right.
Is ITC doing something to help demystify all this fancy, sophisticated concept?
A lot.
A lot?
Actually,
Oh, really? Tell me.
My starting point is always to explain to everybody that more than 90% of businesses in any country are small and medium enterprises. Micro, small, and medium enterprises. They are not big corporations.
Yeah.
Big corporations are between 1 to 5%. The rest is the medium, small, and micro guys. And by the way, there are men, but there are also lots of women. We're going to talk about that, I hope.
Yes.
Because this is also
Yes.
another big
Yes.
ingredient to make trade work
Yes.
for all. And these companies, what they need is to see their cost of doing business reduced. Because if the cost of doing trade are too high,
Yes.
they cannot absorb them.
Yes.
So they would not trade. They would remain in their domestic market. Very often in the informal
Yeah.
market, in the informal sector. So if we help them by reducing the costs, for example, if we help them by reducing the cost of crossing borders, which is what trade facilitation, this terrible name, trade
Yes.
facilitation is about reducing the transaction costs of moving goods through borders. Which certification do you need? What opening hours the customs would have? Can you do an electronic declaration?
Yes.
Or do you have to go and pay?
Yes.
And then maybe someone is going to ask you for a bit more money at
Yeah.
the counter. So
Yeah.
all of these things that reduce the cost of doing business are essentially a deal made for SMEs. No, very often the SMEs don't know. So
Yeah.
what we do in the International Trade Center is try to decode this for the SMEs. We've created a very interesting guide that anybody watching us can download on our website, Intrasend International Trade Center, intrasend.org. Small guide to help SMEs navigate customs.
All right. Arantxa, we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, I want to draw right into what you mentioned, the importance of women in trade. How about that?
That's perfect.
All right. So we'll take a short break. Okay. Arantxa, women matter, men matter too. Okay. But I would say in least developed country, in a smaller, country, you find the role of women very, very strong in terms of, being an entrepreneur. Many times they are multitasking.
That's
between
right.
housewife, mother, running a business, that sort of thing. But I think in the area of trade, in your experience worldwide, right, with ITC, do you see a strong presence of women in trade, in international trade?
Well, we see less women entrepreneurs participating in international trade. And when we analyze this, basically out of 5-6 entrepreneurs, only women, only 2 would export.
Is that right?
So this is what our statistics show us. And so we started asking ourselves the questions. Why is this? And then we realized that women in business are smaller in size, are more in the micro category, and more in the informal micro category.
Okay.
And then we ask ourselves the question, is this because they want to be small? Or is it because they are forced to be small?
Two of us.
And
What's the
then
difference?
You see, you want to be small because you don't want to take risks, because you want to stay in your comfort zone. That's
Okay.
fine. That's equally valid for men,
Okay,
right?
yeah.
But the problem is that what we found is that very often the women are pushed to be very small. Why?
Why?
One, laws that discriminate against women in business.
Okay.
More than 90% of,
Give me an example of that.
for example, a woman cannot sign a contract. A woman cannot
kidding me.
inherit. A woman cannot go and ask for a loan unless the father, the husband, or the brother sign the contract.
Wow.
There are more than 90% of countries in this world have at least one law that discriminate women in the economy compared to men.
Unbelievable.
No, this is the reality. Now, in cases where the law is the same, very often the practice, the procedures are discriminatory. For example,
Okay.
women are more likely to be asked to pay a bribe when they cross a custom than a man. Statistically
It's a
proven.
practice, yeah.
Even in cases where the law and the practice is the same,
Yes.
women have more difficulties in accessing credit. Not because they are more risky than men in business, but because socially, traditionally, you don't see a woman as being creditworthy. You are seen as more risky than a man. As a result of which, credit is more expensive. As a result of which, accessing credit is more difficult. And fourthly, many women lack women networks. Many of the associations and
Yes.
the networks that exist
Yes.
exist for men in business, not for women in business. So, if this is the case, what we have said in the International Trade Center, we have to change this. And why do we have to change this? Not because we are somehow obsessed
Yeah.
with putting women in
Okay.
trade or in the economy, but because we know that if you put more women in the economy, it has a triple benefit. Your country grows more and grows faster because, of course, if you leave 50% of your assets women outside the economy, you're not
Yes,
going to grow
yes.
as much.
Yes.
But imagine the gap is like, if we were to remove all these restrictions, it's like adding a new China and a new US to the world economy.
You kidding me?
That's
Really?
the size of the
Wow.
gap. So, one, we have to make sure that we bridge this gap in a very decisive manner because it's good for the economy.
Yes.
Two, because businesses that are more diverse are more productive. So it's good for the business.
Yes.
And three, because societies reduce poverty much faster. You see, the spending pattern of a woman is different than the spending pattern of a man.
Give me an example again.
80% of what a woman earns goes back to her family or her community.
Okay.
So she buys clothes,
Yes.
she buys food,
Yes.
she pays school fees, she pays medical fees.
Okay.
In the case of the men, it's only 40%.
Interesting.
It's 40-80. And again, it's not me saying it,
Yeah.
just in case you think I am just
Yeah.
trying to pull in my
Okay,
direction.
Okay.
Is the World Bank, who's
Yes.
done very thorough research on this, the IMF that's done very thorough research on this. So if you want to end poverty, it's faster. You end poverty much faster if you empower women economically.
Yeah.
So there is no reason not to put more women in the economy. It's good to
Yes.
grow faster and to grow stronger.
Yeah. Well, Rancha, I would say that in the case of Cambodia, we in Cambodia, I might as well cite Cambodian anecdote. We now have I mentor the Cambodian Women Entrepreneur Association.
Excellent.
And the genesis, you wouldn't believe it, is again ITC, the related. We invited at the time the Minister of Women Affairs to our gender roundtable in Geneva.
Wow.
I was there. Her Excellency Dr. Nkatapavi was there. And from that roundtable, she came back and she started with 8 entrepreneurs.
Wow.
Now we have 300 plus entrepreneurs. And every year I'm honored to be invited by her, by the association, to be there to cut the cake, the anniversary cake, as recent as now they celebrate their 5th year now. And they have 300 membership now. And they are thriving. And you are so right. You are so right. You know, and they say, well, you know, we need additional help on this presentation, this and that. And I was sitting there, as advisor to and the mentor to the association. I said, in fact, you girl should be teaching the Young Entrepreneur Association because you're so organized, you're so patient, your event is very, very, they look, I mean, they run a household, right? They know how to keep everything in order. So we AITC can take credit for that.
So let me tell you one thing. If they are listening to us, please take note. Download an app in your computer free of charge. It's called shetrades.com. shetrades.com. It's a program we have launched recently. We want to connect 1 million women entrepreneurs to markets by 2020.
Okay, you have 300 here.
So I want this 300 included into this She Trades app.
Yes.
It's some sort of Facebook for women in business.
All right.
Because I was going around the world and asking multinationals, why don't you buy from women? That's a good way of embedding them into the economy. And they were always telling me, but where can I find them?
Yes.
I would like to, but I couldn't find them.
So it's a platform.
So we said, okay.
It's a platform.
We'll get you the women. So we now have more than 8,000 women all around the world registered on She Trades. I want your 300 Cambodian friends embedded into this app so that they become visible to markets.
Yes.
They can network among themselves, they can improve their game, and they can find role models that can inspire them, and they can become role models for others.
Yes.
So that we break this idea that international trade is too difficult.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm definitely gonna put that link on our show there later on. But I think this is the other side. But look at the regional side, Rancha. What can ITC do in terms of supporting the development of trade in the context of Cambodia? Now we're part of the ASEAN Economic Community, right? Before we are small, tiny, 15 million size population. We're slightly bigger than Laos. I always take pride that we're bigger than Laos, but we are so small compared to Vietnam, compared to Thailand, to Malaysia, Myanmar, right? But I think trade will be a major game changer for us. Right? How do you see, ITC in this case? What would be your view?
So first, what I see when I look at ASEAN is that there is a lot of room to grow intra-ASEAN trade.
You are so right. We're only at 24% now.
But 24 is the average of ASEAN. If I look at Cambodia, it's well below this 24%,
well below that,
because you focus more on exporting to the US and the EU. Whereas there is a big potential, especially for companies that are starting up. These young startups, like you have amazing companies here in Cambodia, men and women, amazing creativity, innovation. They probably are more likely to start with neighboring countries than jump immediately to export to the EU and to the US.
Distance matter.
Tap into this regional market. What matters for that? One, the obstacles in this intra-ASEAN trade. When we ask businesses, and we've asked businesses here in Cambodia, in Thailand, in Philippines, in Indonesia, what they tell us is the biggest obstacles to trade are non-tariff barriers. So for those who are listening to us saying, here we go again with the jargon. What are non-tariff barriers? Certifications, procedures, regulations that are different depending on the country. So for example, you have a rule for checking the quality of food, rice. In Cambodia is one rule, in Myanmar is one rule, in Laos one rule, in Malaysia is one rule. So harmonizing or recognizing each other's rules would be very important to reduce the cost of doing business. These non-tariff barriers are today somewhere between 20 to 30% costs on top.
Wow, 30% on top of the regular cost. So I mean, put them out of business already.
That's right. So first, make sure you remove these non-tariff barriers to trade. You've got to go granular. You probably have to go sectoral, because pharmaceuticals is different than rice, and rice is going to be different than telecoms, and so on and so forth. Second, I think ASEAN has to make a big investment in fostering young entrepreneurs.
Scales.
Scales. skills connected to tomorrow's market, not
Yes.
skills connected to yesterday's
Yes,
market.
yes.
That's how we're going to be fostering diversification. And three, in my view, there has to be work on improving productivity.
All
You
right.
see, wages are lower, but productivity is also lower.
Yeah.
So if you can't work forever on using lower
Yes.
wages and lower
The race to
prices.
the bottom. Yes.
I don't think, and frankly, I am not sure that workers are going to continue to accept that they
Yeah.
become the variable to adjust
Yes.
prices and costs.
Yes.
So it's better to invest in improving productivity.
Okay. Well, I think you cover quite a bit, some good advice on that, and take a short break. I think when we come back, I like to focus more on the youth. Right? You mentioned women, which is great, but I think Cambodia, as much as ASEAN, we have this demographic dividend.
Yeah.
I want to talk how we can look also from the fourth industrial revolution, right, which is the talk of the town nowadays.
Right.
But it has its pros and cons. But a country like Cambodia or the not so advanced, how do we deal with it? So these are the two things I want to touch when we come back. Okay.
Great.
Well, my friend, I think you give some very good advice how to benefit from regional integration, and but I think regional integration take place by people,
That's right.
and in this case, Cambodia, we are a young country, right? And if you look at ASEAN as a whole, it's still a young region, right? So how do we build the capacity of our youth, right? And how do we link with the industrialization, the IT, the fourth industrial revolution that the World Economic Forum so proudly push for that, right? Sometimes we're a bit scared, yeah? But what's your view on that one?
You see, fourth industrial revolution is a bit of a fancy name, but
yes.
what it talks about is about how can we use technology and technological progress
Yes.
To our advantage, to improve the way we produce, to improve the way we sell,
Yes.
to improve how we manage our company, to improve the way in which we organize ourselves, we provide healthcare, insurance. So all of this, financial services, all of this is what is meant by this fourth industrial
Yes.
revolution. I see in it a big opportunity for the younger generation. Why? Because they are much more tech savvy,
Yes,
they are
yes.
much more agile,
Yes.
they are born already in a way technologically savvy, as opposed to you
one
and
with the
I.
smart-
We had to,
Yeah.
we had to learn all this.
You know, just to cut you a bit here, this month we're celebrating the 20th anniversary of the presence of internet in Cambodia. We're gonna look to do a big event. I'm one of the guy, we're about 4 or 5 of us at that time, who are messing around with that, right? And now we call each other to say, look, it's 20 years. We have to do something. And the guy who's one of the founder is now the head of our telecom regulator.
There we go.
So anyway,
Yeah, but this is
Get back to you.
This is the reality. People born today, for them, technology is something that is natural. It's part of their lives. It's part of
Yes.
their DNA. Technology is, of course, disrupting the business models that we know. For example, we know that in the U.S., 8 million truck drivers and cashiers at supermarkets would probably lose their jobs in the next 15 to 20 years because you will have self-driving cars.
Oh my
and
God.
because you would scan your own products when you go to the supermarket. So technology is disrupting a lot
Yes.
of, and it's in a way obliging us to rethink many of the jobs that exist today, but it's also creating many jobs that did not exist
Yes,
before
yes,
that exist
yes.
today, from programming to managing to. So the question is making sure that we empower people with the necessary skills
Yes.
to prepare them for the jobs of tomorrow.
yes.
And this is very tough. And this is where countries like Cambodia need to invest. It's in education.
Education, yeah.
It's education. It's the basics.
In STEM,
If we
yeah.
in STEM, but even beyond STEM. It's in the world of tomorrow. We have to empower them because they are going to. Our grandparents probably only had one job in their lives, maybe
Yes.
two.
Yes.
But our future generations are going to know 6, 7, 8 jobs.
Yes,
in
before
their
they settle
lives.
down. yeah.
So, and we need to, in a way, that the name of the game is empowering the individual to move as these transformations happen.
Yes,
Now, it's education, but it's beyond education. You also have to create a link between the education and the job market.
Yes.
Is what we call, in our jargon, accelerators.
Accelerator.
So
okay.
you need, or incubator, accelerator is where.
How you do that?
So you need to organize in a way an ecosystem where the young person who wants to become, he's gotten all this knowledge,
Yes,
and he's
yeah.
been empowered because he's
Okay.
been educated, but he wants to create his own company or her own company.
Yeah. Okay.
And he or she needs to devise a good plan, right, for a good business opportunity. Maybe they think they can build an app that will help, those that are looking for a hotel find a hotel. Those that are looking for a restaurant find a restaurant. Those that are looking for a doctor look for.
Yeah.
So they have an idea, but they need to be able to translate this idea into a business plan. And then they need to test this business plan on the ground.
Ah, okay.
Okay, so they need to move from idea into a market. So again, for us in the International Trade Center, young entrepreneurs is a big issue, because we know that if we get it right with the younger generation, then we are using this huge lever called
Yes.
youth
Yes.
into more inclusive societies. But if we fail, it's a time
That's
bomb.
yeah.
It's a time
That's
bomb.
time bomb. Yes.
So what we've done is we've created an online, what we call SME Trade Academy.
Okay.
Again,
Wow.
our
Okay.
viewers who want to become entrepreneurs, in our website, intracen.org, they find the SME Trade Academy. There are modules. You take your modules. You take them from your computer. You can take them from your phone. You take them when you can. But they walk you through moving from theoretical knowledge into becoming an entrepreneur on the ground.
Wow. So I mean, that's another tool right there. It's another tool right there. So I think if you combine the power of the tool, the power of the youth, and the power of this new, as you said, the fancy word of automation, of technology, that sort of thing, you could have some serious job creation, enabling the economy to grow. I think in Cambodia, the way I look, because I do mentor quite a lot of young entrepreneurs, I see they're very hungry for knowledge. If I tell you that there is now a few hundred young Cambodian software engineers, you wouldn't believe it.
I do. I would very much believe it, because these guys are everywhere.
Yes.
2 weeks ago,
Yes.
I was in West Africa, in Mali and
Yeah.
Burkina Faso. These countries don't have a reputation for having very dynamic economies.
Yeah.
And yet I found amazing young entrepreneurs in software, in fashion design,
Amazing.
in food.
Yeah.
And this is what I am sure exists here in
Yes,
Cambodia.
yes.
Because you see, this spirit, this entrepreneurial spirit is very, very prevalent in the youth.
Yes.
But what we need to help them with is three things:
Ah, okay.
skills,
Skill.
capital, and a mentality that you can fail and start all over again.
Okay.
A mentality that taking risks
Yes.
is okay.
Yes.
That it doesn't matter if you fail, you start all over again. These three things are essential: skills, capital, and a mentality.
Yeah, I think for the last part, I agree with you a lot that a society that support or encourage look, it's okay to fail, because and to me I think it's always better to fail when you're young. You can always run back to live with your parent, right? And then you do it again a few years later, right? You don't want to fail when you're 45, right? So but I think sometimes also it's a matter of regulation also, right? And this is where I think the US model is very good, because bankruptcy in the US, it's okay. There's no stigma. I think in our part of the world, right? In Asia, when I say part of the world, it's Asia. Bankruptcy is still a stigma.
Yes, like in Europe.
Is that right?
Like in Europe, it's exactly the same. If you fail, in my country, Spain, if you fail, you're seen as a failure. Whereas, I think we have to change this mentality,
Yes.
because if we don't take risks,
Yes.
we would never succeed. We have to be able to take the risk. We may fail, but for sure, if we don't take the risk, we will not succeed.
Yes, exactly.
So it's
exactly.
a bit creating this, also creating the tools, the insurance policies that would allow you to not be handicapped for the rest of your life if you fail the first time. But accept that you fail. You can, put your counter to zero and start all over again.
But things like this, it takes time to change the mindset, But I think in this globalized world, in this regionalized world, I really believe in the power to use I would say the exposure matter a lot. For me, I always use this anecdote that people say, well, it's fine, now you're in the ASEAN Economic Community, what's the benefit, that sort of thing. I say it's very simple, right? Before, we used to line up, queue in front of Thai embassy, Singapore embassy to wait for visa, right? And now you say e-ticket, right? No visa.
That's right.
And I tell you, the best anecdote, and I use it over and over again. In the morning, I think we have about 15 flights to Bangkok every day, right? 15 flights, right? And I'm not talking about the other going to Malaysia, Singapore. So about 6 o'clock, there's a 6 o'clock flight. It's only 1 hour to fly to Bangkok. Fly there, you see a group of young Cambodian women, 3 big empty suitcases. So they go there. By 7:30, they arrive in Bangkok. By 8:30, they are already in the wholesale market in Bangkok. By 10 o'clock, they fill their empty suitcase with jeans, with clothing. They bought wholesale. Then they go shopping, watch a movie. And then by 4 o'clock, they take taxi back to the airport. By 7 o'clock, they're home. By 9 o'clock, they offload their jeans, their stuff, make $5 per jean profit, clear $500 and go home. All these things will not happen if they still have to queue for visa, if borders are still high. And to me, these are the exposure. A young architect with a camera, digital camera that can take 1,000 pictures. He flew to, Singapore over the weekend. Take all these pictures, come back. I'm a young architect. Now I'm exposed. You see the landscape of Cambodia right there. Look, building below 20 story, mostly done by Cambodian. Design, built by Cambodian now. Imagine 10 years ago, no way.
But you see, you're opening a chapter that is very important also for our viewers, which is trade is not just trade in physical goods.
Yes.
Trade is also trade in services, in intangibles.
Yes.
This country creates amazing amount of jobs in trade, in intangibles, called tourism.
Yes.
People don't know, but tourism is a form of trade.
It's a form of trade.
When a foreigner comes here to visit this amazing Angkor Wat in Siem Reap,
he's buying service.
or when he's going to Sihanoukville to the beach, or when it thus is paying.
Yes.
He's leaving money here for a service that it has received.
Exactly.
And that's a huge part of your economy.
We are 5 million tourists now.
Think about it.
And before we joined WTO, we're struggling with one hotel in Siem Reap.
Well, I was probably was one of the visitors to that hotel.
Yeah, exactly. And
when
now,
I was there.
it's amazing. Anyway, Arantxa, I think unfortunately we come to the end of the show, but I think we covered quite a bit.
We
covered quite a bit.
We did a lot.
Women, trade frustration, WTO, the WEF, youth. The last one is the service. It's great. I think I'm not going to bother summarizing. I think we covered quite a bit. But Arantxa, on behalf of the Cambodian audience, let me just say thank you so much for last minute to take. You could have stayed for the official dinner with all the head of state there. But thank you for making this a contribution for our viewer. Okay.
Thank you. Thank
Thanks,
you
my
so
friend.
much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and keep up this amazing program.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are at the end of the show, and I hope you all learned something. And don't forget all the website, the link that is posted there. Make sure you use it. Okay? Good night.